So, in front of me is a car that I personally think is all you'd ever need. No, it's not an M4, it's not a massive SUV, but give me a chance to explain myself and I think you may be surprised. This is a BMW 420d XDrive, and in this video I'm going to take it into the real world and show you exactly what I mean. My name's Tom and you're watching Paragon Cars. Let's go. In the engine bay, we have a 180 horsepower 2-litre diesel. Doesn't really sound exciting, right? Well, it also has 380 Newton meters of torque, and that figure right there is what makes this car. 0 to 60 in 7.3 seconds, not fast, but not slow. And then a top speed of 147 miles an hour. Again, not fast, but certainly not slow. Moving on to the inside, you're greeted with a nearly functionally perfect cabin. The iDrive system still feels intuitive to use, whilst being just as responsive as the latest Mercedes or Audi infotainment. This particular car has a number of other features, including heated seats, a heads-up display, a fantastic Harman Kardon sound system, and many other features. The only downside are these manually adjustable seats. Whilst you can indeed get a very comfortable position in them, actually getting there can only be done while stationary. Try and recline the seat a tad whilst you're on the move, and you'll probably end up lying down in the back seats. Moving into the back, this car turns into a TARDIS. There's plenty of legroom to play around with, and headroom is somehow decent as well, even for a coupe. You could comfortably have 4 adults in this car for a long journey. There's even an armrest with pop-out cup holders. The boot is also joint leading in its class. At 440 litres, it's got plenty of room for 3 big suitcases or 5 smaller ones. Like its competitors, you can also fold the rear seats down, making this quite a substantial amount of space. Now, let's get on the road and I'll show you exactly why I think this car is so good. So, we're driving the 2017 BMW 420d XDrive. In this video, we're going to take it for a drive around town on the motorway, see what the MPG is like, and then we're going to take it onto some twisties. In terms of town driving, BMW's absolutely nailed this car. The steering is really nice and light. The suspension is controlled without being bouncy or too stiff. And this car has probably the best gearbox I think has ever been made. It's the ZF 8-speed transmission, and coming out of junctions it just goes. Like, there's no hesitation, you don't get any kind of lag when you put your foot down, the car just shoots off. And because it's got the XDrive system, there's pretty much no wheel spin either. It's a rear bias system that sends most of the power to the rear most of the time, unless it detects a bit of slip, and then it'll send some power to the front. And this engine at low speed is really nice, really smooth for a 4-cylinder actually. Okay, let's see what the parking is like. Being a coupe, obviously the visibility out the back isn't quite as good, but because we've got parking sensors all around, this doesn't make it too hard. A reverse camera would be quite nice, which is an option on this car. This one doesn't have it, but it's still totally manageable, to be honest. And as you can see, the parking sensors are really accurate as well. We're just in eco now, but I can give you a demonstration of how quickly this car gets out of junctions. See, it's completely unfazed whatsoever. And the heads-up display really helps because it stops you from going well over the speed limit as well. Although it seems to think we're in a 5 mile an hour limit at the moment. Not sure why. Okay, we've reset the trip computer now, so we're going to see what kind of MPG we get on the motorway and doing some twisty road driving. It's important to get the combination of the two to see exactly what MPG figure you get. Makes it more realistic. Okay, let's see what it's like running this roundabout, just in efficiency. As you can see, again, the gearbox responds so quickly in this car. And this is a torque converter, it's not even dual clutch. And here's where that 380 Newton meter torque figure comes into play. You can sit 1500 RPM and you get up to speed just like that, so quickly. The drivability of this car is so good for a 4-cylinder engine. Okay, we're coming up to a national speed limit now, so I can put the car into Sports Plus. This makes the steering heavier, more direct, throttle pedal is more responsive, and if I put the gearbox into Sports mode, it will hold on to the gears slightly longer. I can also tighten the side bolsters of my seat to keep me in place a bit more. But coming off this roundabout here, put your foot down. You can get the car sideways. This is a 420D. This isn't an M4 or a C63. This is just a normal diesel. And keep in mind, because that XDrive system is there, you've got a safety net, so you can never really go wrong. We're coming up to the motorway now, so I'm going to put the car back into efficiency mode, and we're going to see exactly what fuel economy we can get out of this engine, because I think you'll be pretty impressed. Okay, now we are on the motorway. That gives us a chance to talk about some of the other things about this car. May as well start with seat comfort. Yeah, as I mentioned in the intro, the seats are very hard to adjust themselves, because when you pull a lever, the seat either just falls or comes up. You have to literally pull yourself up. So not the best system, but once you do find a position, it is really comfortable. You can adjust the pitch of the seat base, so you can get some under thigh support, and then there's another little extendable bit, just like an Audi A5 or a C-Class. One thing you don't get in those cars is adjustable side bolsters. With this car, they're electrically adjustable, so you can tighten them, as I mentioned before. So when you are going round roundabouts or you're having some fun on a B road, it holds you in place nicely, so you can have some good control. Visibility, being a coupe, is actually really good, especially when you're changing lanes. As you can see when I look over to my left, there's no B-pillar in the way, so I'm not having to look in my blind spot by turning my head all the way around. I can either just look in the mirror, because it's got that little curved bit of glass, or I can just see everything there pretty easily. In terms of interior noise, it's about on par with a Mercedes C-Class, I would say. There's pretty much zero wind noise. The only wind noise you do get is coming from the wing mirror. That's because it's got those M Sport wing mirrors. It creates a little bit more wind noise than the usual ones. But road noise is kept to an absolute minimum. There's almost none of it. And it doesn't matter what wheels you have, there's no road noise in these cars. You can be riding on the 18s or the 19s, they both pretty much sound the same. The heads-up display in this car, I'm not sure you can see it. If I slouch down, you might be able to see it a bit. It basically gives you all your navigation information that you need, and it tells you your speed, tells you whether you've got the cruise control on, tells you the speed limit, plenty of information, everything you need. So it means you're not taking your eyes off the road, which is really good. As you can see, we're already averaging 45 miles to the gallon, and we're sitting at 70 miles an hour, and we've barely done any mileage yet. And do keep in mind, because this is the XDrive car, it's a permanent four-wheel drive system, so it adds a bit more weight, and then you get a bit more drivetrain loss as well. So fuel economy isn't going to be quite as good as the pure rear-wheel drive equivalent. Interior quality, as I mentioned in the 440i review, it's not the most flashy cabin in the world, but all the materials you touch are actually a higher quality than its competitors. You get really nice squidgy materials on the door cards. They extend all the way down to the bottom of the door cards. They're also lined with felt, so anything you do put in them doesn't rattle around. The dash also has this nice squidgy material, and then there's some stitching that goes pretty much all the way across it, which adds to a bit of the depth in the cabin. You've then got this aluminium trim, I think this is the hexagon one, and then this little blue M Sport bit of trim here. Everything's super functional in this cabin. You've even got some favourite buttons that if you just place your finger on them, they're actually capacitive. So it's like a mouse pad on a MacBook. And you can assign stuff like your favourite radio station, favourite destination, all those kinds of things. You've then got one feature that I think should be on every single car ever made, a max AC button. It's so simple, but when it's a hot day, it just makes getting cool so much quicker. In the Mercedes, you have to press down here, down there, then you have to press auto. It's just a faff. In a luxurious car, everything should be made simple and easy to use. That's the whole point. This car also has the basic assist system, which you've got two options down here. That's the lane assist system. So basically what that means is if you stray out your lane, it'll vibrate the steering wheel a little bit and just tell you that you might be doing something dangerous. It's then got the cruise control with brake assist. So this isn't a full radar cruise control system where it'll just keep you a safe distance from the car, but it means if you do get too close to the car in front, it will beep at you and it'll start gently tapping on the brakes just to let you know you're tailgating someone. Pretty useful feature for the average BMW driver, I think. We're going to do a couple more miles on the motorway and then we're going to take it off and do some twisty road driving. So far we're averaging just over 50 miles to the gallon. Again, super impressive for a car like this. Okay, we're coming off the motorway now, and as you can see we average 55 miles to the gallon. And I know some cars you can get like 65 or 70, but they're like really small hatchbacks. This is quite a heavy luxury coupe with four-wheel drive, and you're getting 55 mpg on the motorway at 70 miles an hour with the cruise control on. With the cruise control off, you'll probably get over 62. We're going to take this car to some twisty roads now and see what the handling's like. Again, I think you'll be pretty impressed. We're now at our favourite twisty bit of road, so I'm going to put the car into Sports Plus mode. Again, this will slacken off the traction, make the steering nice and heavy. And then I'm going to put the gearbox in sports mode. This time I'm going to take manual control. And the difference between this, an Audi and a Mercedes, is this will actually hold onto the gears for you. So you have full control of that gearbox. Let's go. And that's already the national speed limit. Going over these bumps, these BMWs are so good. It's so controlled, there's so much grip. You never feel like you're out of control with this car. Brakes are fantastic as well. And that initial turn in, it makes you so confident with the car. There is no launch control, but you can sort of sidestep the brake. And that'll get you 0 to 60 in about 7.3 seconds. That's 50 miles an hour down there already. National speed limit. That 380 Newton meters of torque will get this car up to speed plenty fast enough. And the suspension again is controlled without being super bouncy, and it's not too stiff either. Direction changes are just brilliant in this car. Okay, we're going to drive ourselves back to the dealership now, and then we'll see exactly what our final MPG figure is. I'm going to put the car back into Eco, gearbox back in D. But my verdict for handling, if you want a car that is fun and not insanely expensive to run, this is the best car. It'll get you where you need to go, even if it's snowing, because you've got the XDrive system, and it'll go sideways in the corners. What more do you need? mean, I suppose the only thing lacking is the sound, but if you can get over that, the actual driving dynamics of the car are fantastic. Since we're on our way back, we may as well talk about the price of this car, or how much it costs on finance. This particular car, because it's got quite a lot of options, is £2,000 deposit, £375 a month. So it's not the cheapest car in the world. Obviously it's not going to be cheap. It's still a BMW. It's got the M Sport package, so you've got bigger brakes, you've got the body kit, you've got a heads-up display, ProNav, Harman Kardon sound system, heated seats. This car isn't a base model car, so obviously you're going to be paying a bit more money than you would if it was a BMW 420d SE or Sport model. But if you just wanted to have one car that did everything and it still had coupe looks, this is the car you want. It's efficient, it's got four-wheel drive, it's easy to drive around town because it's not too big, still quite big but not too big, and it's got 4 seats that are actually usable in a coupe. A lot of other coupes, like, I mean, that C-Class we reviewed last week, it didn't have anywhere near as much room in the back seats. You've got enough space in the boot for 4 people's luggage as well. Well, we made it back to the dealership, and as you can see, we got a whopping 49 miles to the gallon. Certainly very impressive, even for a 4-cylinder diesel. And on a back road, as I mentioned before, I have to say, this is probably the most fun 2-litre diesel car I've ever driven. You know, it's got plenty of torque, so you still get to 60 in under 8 seconds. It doesn't feel slow anywhere on the rev range. No matter when you put your foot down, it just goes. The ZF8-speed transmission is completely faultless, to be honest. Sound system is brilliant as well. Quality of the interior, as I said before, it's not the most exciting interior, but the actual fit and finish is really, really impressive. They've definitely stepped up their game. And this car's 4 years old now, and there's not a single squeak or rattle yet. Very, very impressive. As always, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and why not subscribe to our channel so you can see some more of our stock. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.